got into a mindset of like, I don't need people, and isolation is the way to build a business. And it was like, relationships are a waste of time. If you want to build a business, you got to sacrifice. But again, all in due time and all in to show you what God wants you to see on his timing.
Welcome to another edition of Living Boldly with Purpose, and this is Dr. B. Brian Arnold. I am so excited today, and I know you guys hear me say that every single time, but it's absolutely true. The folks that I get to spend time with, and the folks that I get to, I have the honor, and I believe it, I have the honor of talking to folks who are not only successful, but truly living boldly in the purpose, and realize that the purpose that they have in life and why God put them on this planet to do the thing that they were meant to do. And there's something special that I find with people who are doing that. It's something about the way that they wake up in the morning, the way that they go to bed at night, the things that they talk about during the day. I interact with so many people that sometimes don't know what they're going and don't know where they're going and are asking the question, why am I here? And don't like their jobs. And then it becomes this almost sometimes a complaint session where they complain about, their lives all the time. And you ask them, well, why don't you change? And sometimes it is because they just don't know how. Sometimes they believe, well, if I change, then it may not work. And so they start manifesting that in their lives where they believe, I don't know if I can do it, all that kind of stuff. Well, that's not the case today. Today we get to talk to Giana, who is just making an impact and a difference in so many lives. And I'm one of the lives that she's making a difference and an impact. And I could not wait to be able to have this conversation with her and to kind of find out how she got to this point and what she's doing and where she's going. She's told me, we call it the green room before we, that's, I guess, when you're like in acting and you're, on stage and all that kind of stuff, it's the green room. So on podcasting, I don't know if there's an official term for when we talk before the show, but she says she gets to go to Europe and she gets to, and here's what's really cool about it is she just bought a one-way ticket. And so she's doing an event and she's there for a reason, but because she's able to live the life that she's living, she's able to say, I'll just come back when I'm ready to come back, because I can do, especially with technology and the internet and doing everything, she can probably do a lot of what she does no matter where in the world that she's at. And when you think about that, a life that you can do that, a life that you can go and you can spin and you can explore and you can, it's been so many years since I've been to Europe. I was an athlete and was able to, as a track athlete, go and compete and all over, a few summers. And it was kind of like that, where we started the season in June and then we ended up somewhere in August before we came back to compete or whatever back here in the US. And so the things that you get to learn and the experiences that you get to have and the people that you get to interact with. So fun. I think she said she was in Ireland, not too long ago and being able to do stuff. But what is really cool, though, that we talked about is I asked her, like I asked many of our guests, what are you most excited about? And her answer was one that, some people, I'm excited because I'm getting ready to have a new baby, or I'm excited because I'm getting ready to start a new career. And her answer was, I'm excited because I want to see what God's going to do in my life. And that just, warmed my heart in a big way, just because I think of, now that I'm getting a little bit older and I have less days ahead of me than I had before me, and just thinking about when you're living in God's purpose and you're open to hear him and to hear what he has to say about our lives, and just kind of you're tuned in with that. Oh man, life takes on such a better meaning. Life is just so much more, I guess, just exciting to be part of. And so I want to hear about that. We want to hear about it. We all want to hear about it. And so, Giana, thank you for being on. Thank you for taking your time. I know you're busy. I know this is something that you contemplated probably. I have really the time to do it, but I'm so glad you did. And I would love for you, like I ask all my guests, start out with your story. To start at your mama's womb if you want, or anywhere in between. And then we'll hear all about Giana, and then we'll just kind of chop it up after that. So thank you again for being on. The floor is yours.
Yeah, amazing. Well, thank you for having me. We're all busy, right? Definitely. And so I'm excited to be here, excited to to share my story and learn a little bit more about you as well. But yeah, where to start? So I mean, it has been quite a journey over the last few years, especially, and it really is amazing. I know I said this at the beginning, but it's really amazing to see what God is doing and kind of where I'm at. And I think my ideas around living in purpose and what that really means have definitely changed, and they're continuing to evolve even more so. It's been something that's kind of coming up more and more lately, which is really cool. But yeah, basically, for as long as I can remember, I've had some sort of, I wouldn't have called it this as a kid, but I had some sort of entrepreneurial drive.
Okay.
And I say entrepreneurial drive in the terms of like, just being completely honest is kind of something I look back on now, and it served its purpose, right? But I mean, it was always a drive for what I thought was money and what I thought was material things, but really what it was freedom. And thankfully, by the grace of God, I kind of had a realization maybe 3 or 4 years ago now that, when you start hitting some of these materialistic goals, right? And somewhat at a younger age, I think it was like 26 when I hit this first one that I thought was a major milestone. I thought like my life was going to be completely different after it. And it's so stupid. It was a car, right? So I got my dream car, and it was this, it was great for a couple hours. And then after that, it was like, I don't feel any different. And I feel a little bit like unfulfilled by this thing. It's not at all what I thought it was going to be. All the problems and everything else is still there. And so it's like, you realize that what you've been chasing, again, it served its purpose, right? And it was something that got me to where it needed to be, but it just started to shift for me very rapidly. And that kind of began the process. I had my business at that point. I was still working a full-time job as well that I loved, and kind of, a whole story there in terms of like making that decision to finally leave and go all in, which was tough. But it just started me on this journey of kind of letting go, and I think we look at purpose in that way too, of like, I've got to figure out my purpose and I have to go and do. And it's like, really, when we look at it and we take the focus off of ourselves, it's like the less that you do, it's not about you, ultimately. Right. And so when you can let go of that, which is such a hard thing to do, and you just, submission and all of that, it's a totally different mindset. And that started this whole shift for me of, independence. I can figure it out. Let's make as much money as possible. It's all about me. And really just kind of taking my eyes off myself over the last few years. And once I did that, I mean, not to say that everything shifted, of course, it's an ever evolving journey. But it's been amazing. So, now just a little background on where I'm at. We have a company called Upper Hand Creative. Basically, we help, as we help entrepreneurs get all of their content done in less than 4 hours per month. And it really just came from an obsession of efficiency and systems. And, I hate social media, but I know we got to do it. How do I do it without ever having to log into an account? And so it's just taught me so much about so many things that I'm sure we'll get into. But yeah, that's kind of it in a nutshell.
Oh, cool. So when we think about, maybe you can share a little bit about where you were working before you started your own company. But I'd love to talk about identity a little bit, and like the identity that you had. You kind of you alluded to, I had this entrepreneurial spirit that I thought I wanted to be an entrepreneur. Were there certain things that you were able to do? Like, did you sell candy in high school or something or was there something that, that some people do that, or was like your parents who kind of helped you, that created that identity that said, not only is this something I think I would like to do, but I want to put in the work to make it happen?
Yeah, that's a good question. This is funny. The earliest thing I remember doing, like, that was somewhat organized, it wasn't even that organized, but I've always been drawn to like art. So growing up as a kid, painting, drawing, not so much anymore, but growing up as a kid, that was my thing. And so 8th grade, I was going to school in Miami, military family. So we moved, every year, every 2 years, and I happened to be in Miami at this point. And I got really good for some reason at drawing. You know how you see like on walls, people will paint graffiti and it's this very elaborate, like spray paint things. Well, I got really good at drawing names in graffiti style, and people started asking me if I would do their name. And so I started selling graffiti, like custom graffiti names in 8th grade. That was kind of the first thing I remember doing. And I think it started off more of like just project based, and I had this vision, this would be cool. And even as a little kid, like I remember it was like a 3-year-old, my mom asking me to come here, and I was like, I'm busy, and I was reorganizing my closet, right, as a 3-year-old. So it's like I just always had a vision and like a doer mentality, and I somehow it led me to business.
Wow. Ooh, I lost you for a second. Oh, here we go.
Oh,
No, there we go. Somehow I just blanked out on my screen. Oh,
uh-oh.
that's funny because you say it because I have a grandchild now who keeps arranging our shoes all the time and just putting them along the wall and organizing them and putting them in based on size. And she's only 3. Now, like after you tell me that story, I'm thinking, uh-oh, what's going to happen here with her? And oh my gosh, that is so cool. So maybe a little bit about what did you do like after? Did you go to college and go the educational route and then got into a work and then you just didn't like it anymore, or you just said there's just God has way more for me than what this a job or with this a career that I've kind of chosen has allowed me to do?
Yeah, so the kind of linear journey is probably middle school. I started getting into acting.
Okay.
And TV and film, I thought that's what I wanted to do. And that path, I knew getting into that. I guess I've always kind of had like a long-term mindset. Like you can see this when you compare like me to my brother, right? He's very much like, what are the short-term gains? And I was always, I'm going to figure it out. I know it's probably going to take some time. I'm willing to invest the time. I don't know where that came from, but it's just always been a thing. And so I got into acting. I knew it was going to be a long journey. I was looking at all the people that I respected in the acting world at the time. And, you hear 10, 15, 20 years before they ever even practically turned a buck in acting, right? But I started having this idea of like, okay, I don't want to do it the way that everybody else has done it. I don't want to go wait tables and have to worry about paying my bills while I'm trying to invest in my dream here. And while I have to keep going to my boss and saying, oh, I just had this audition pop up. Like I need to leave. I didn't want to have to be at somebody else's disposal for my time. And so I went down this path of like trying to figure out how can I make money basically like with freedom of time. And so it led me to all kinds of things and tried to start a graphic design business, which now makes a lot of sense looking back on it because Upper Hand Creative actually started as Unlimited Graphic Design.
Oh, gotcha.
And so we went that route. But I was quickly learning, like stepping into that, if I was the one doing all the work, same thing with the graffiti thing. If I was the one doing all the work, I was such a perfectionist. It would take me 6 weeks for a logo, and somebody was like, hey, I need this. And I was like, no, like, it's not what I want it to be yet. And so I eventually got to the point of hiring other people so that I didn't have to, be the bottleneck. But yeah, so the acting kind of led me to this graphic design business, figuring out how to make money, eventually led me into network marketing. And I did. Okay. I went to college all throughout this process as well. All throughout college, I thought acting was the way to go. And so I didn't have this weight on like finding a job after college, or I didn't have this weight on my degree. Got a degree in economics and finance. Okay. I was a theater major for all of 3 months and cut that pretty quickly. So, but I think because I didn't have that pressure of like, I've got to find a job, or I wasn't even thinking I need to find a job after college. I thought, no, I'm going to do this thing and, make money where I can and then focus on acting. So out of college, was waiting tables, was driving Uber, was doing all the things, got into network marketing. Eventually that led me to kind of door-to-door sales where I figured out I was making more money knocking on doors, selling. I would break down basically the network marketing company was an instant coffee company.
Oh, really?
So you have these it was pretty cool. You'd have these boxes of these little and it was really good instant coffee packets. And I realized that, and they tell you like, don't break the rules. The rules are like, go sell to your friends and family and bring them into this thing with you. Right. And they're very like, and I'm a rule follower. So it was before I got into marketing. Had I known what I know now, I would have, run ads and built a funnel, but it is what it is. And so I split up these packets and I was like, I got to pay for this product somehow. And there was a trip coming up where like they had a conference or something and I had to pay for my plane ticket. So I was like, I'm going to figure this out. So I just would go to the dollar store and buy these little baggies and I would split up the coffee, put 3 packets in one and sell it for $5 door to door. And I was like, I'm making more money doing this than I am waiting tables. Right. So
yeah, of course.
That kind of got me into this business game. And I was like, maybe I can actually start a real business somehow. And so then, went down that route. Did a million things, started working at a company called Orange Theory Fitness. And I just started working there for a free membership. out of college. Like, it was the only thing that really got me to work out. And I was like, I need to figure this out. And so I started working the front desk for maybe the bare minimum, right? Hey, how much do you need me here to get the free membership kind of thing? So I was there for 2 days a week, and I fell in love with it. And I never thought I'd have a future in fitness. That was never anything on my mind. I played sports growing up, but it was like, working out was not my thing. And so I eventually, a couple months in, got certified as a personal trainer, started coaching, which looking back now is like the greatest job to do as you're building a business, right? It's great pay, great consistency, and great hours. But through that, I tell that story because that had a massive impact on where my business is today. And so basically at Orange Theory, I had amazing mentors, people I still work with today, that poured into me. And I didn't know that I had any capability as a leader. I was really, really young. I was the newest certified fitness trainer. And I basically kept getting promoted over people that have been in the fitness industry for 10, 20 years. And of course, there's all the stuff that comes with that. You call it imposter syndrome, whatever it is, but it's like, who am I to be stepping into this, to be leading these people that not only have 10 plus years of life experience on me, but 10 plus years of industry experience. And basically Orange Theory is at the time, it was one of the top franchises in the nation. And so they had it down from systems to processes. So I learned sales, I learned operations, I learned leading a team. I learned all of these things that are now the foundation of basically what became Upper Hand Creative and what became my company. And so that really gave me, I think, the development, the confidence, the mindset, everything, the missing pieces that I needed to go all in on the business. And eventually it's been, I don't know, three or 4 years now, however long it's been, when I finally stepped out of that to go full time in the business.
Man, that's so cool. Because I'm thinking, the fitness industry, I believe, especially at clubs and where you're doing that, have probably the best systems on the planet, because they know, this is how many people are going to show up at the gym. This is how many people are going to buy memberships and never show up. This is the people you're going to work with, and this is how you sell the memberships. I remember when I was a PE teacher at a high school, and I needed more money, so I went and worked at then was called Family Fitness. And so now it's 24-hour fitness. And I can say, learning those systems and stuff helped me as well. I think the greatest thing that came from it is my membership was a life membership. And I pay $6 a month for my membership that I'll never get rid of. 40 years later, I've still paid $6 a month. But then it was free when I worked there, but it translated, into you get it for lifetime. Oh my gosh. But so when I think about personal development, you had two pretty big personal development places to be, because the network marketing, you can't get somebody to do network marketing if you're not working on personal development. And then you went and got sales experience by going door to door. So that's the biggest fear and challenge that most people have. What would you say about that journey of personal development? And then how are you, continuing that in today with, as part of your life, what percentage? I love to ask people that, because I think some people say, well, I spend 1 hour a month on personal development. I'm like, well, you're not very successful. That's all you're doing.
Yeah.
So talk to me about that theory a little bit, how that works.
Yeah, it's such a great question, because it's definitely puts a spotlight on accountability. It's something I've been thinking about a lot lately. I can tell when I start deviating from intentionally seeking learning and seeking development. And I can tell in how it shows up in my relationship with my team. And I know that I'm not showing up to the best of my ability with them when I'm not feeling that, and I'm not, consuming things in the right way or being intentional about it. So it's also great that you picked up on that with the network marketing thing, because again, it's you can look back on all this stuff. For me, I'm kind of sort of figuring it out now and where it played its role, but looking back on acting and looking back on the artwork stuff and looking back on, network marketing, I'm like, man, this stuff feels so random. And it also feels lifetimes away, where I'm like, I can't even connect to that now. But looking back on it, I can see where each piece had some sort of impact or influence on skill set. And network marketing was the beginning of personal development for me. It was huge. I would go to all the conferences. I remember a lot of the speeches and things that had impact on me. Right. And there's a big play in network marketing as well on, I guess, is personal development in general, but on knowing that in order to kind of chase these big goals, you're going to kind of make waves. You're going to kind of ruffle some feathers around you, right? You're not going to fit in with the same people, and they're not, and it's not even that they are malicious about it or like trying to push you away, but you just have to come to this acceptance that your values are different. And there's nothing wrong, right? There's nothing greater or lesser than, but it's totally different than somebody that is, ascending their career ladder in a 9 to 5. And so I think I just got really comfortable with that. Probably pendulum swing a little bit too much and got into a mindset of like, I don't need people, and isolation is the way to build a business. And back then that's what people online were doing, right? Like you see these entrepreneurs with these online businesses and they're like, I work 16 hours a day. And if you work less than that, like you're never going to make, they're shifting now. You can see this big shift in the industry, but it was very much that. And it was like, relationships are a waste of time. If you want to build a business, you got to sacrifice. So unfortunately I got sucked into a little bit of that. Right. But again, all in due time, and all in to show you what God wants you to see in his timing. And so now I think personal development has taken a lot of different forms. Like obviously reading, audiobooks, podcasts is a big thing. But I also see it as like conversations with others, right? And reflecting on how you're showing up in these conversations, and then being willing to step into like sharing that with other people. So I'm learning a lot about that, about vulnerability, about what that looks like in a leadership standpoint. So I think personal development has taken on a lot of different forms for me. But man, if I had to put a percentage to it, that's a really good question. I would like to say that at least, I don't know, I'm just estimating, maybe 20 to 30% of my week, if not more, or day really, is probably dedicated to some sort of learning.
Perfect. Oh, I love that, because it is so, when we get to there, we start realizing, how important it is to work on ourselves. And part of working on ourselves is in relationship. I 100% believe God put us on this planet for a relationship, and the better relationships you have, the further you go. Maybe you can talk a little bit about some of those circles of people that made a difference, and maybe even start with your parents. Like, what's like one lesson you got from your parents as you were moving out, and then maybe some of those circles that served you, and it's also maybe some of the circles that you had to get away from because they weren't serving you. Kind of talk about that a little bit. That would be awesome.
Yeah. Now I'm thinking back. It's funny. I think for my parents, when I got to college, there were a lot of things that I realized had been ingrained in me that I wasn't like conscious of necessarily. It wasn't an intentional thing that I, thought about. It just was there. And so getting to college, I started to realize that, and doing more, kind of diving into personal development work, you start to learn those things and reflect back on it. So my dad used to drive me nuts as a kid, but I'm so incredibly thankful for it today. And I think if I had to credit like one thing for why I am the way that I am today, I think this is probably it. But he would always say, I'd ask him a question or bring him, a homework question or whatever it was that I was working on. And I would go to him for help. And his answer every time would be, did you Google it? What did you do to try to figure out the answer? Early Google wasn't always around, but once Google got around, that was the big thing. Did you Google it? And to be honest, that is to a fault almost how I am now, right? So good example of this, we're launching a software within the company, and I was like, I can figure that out, right? Most people were like, let me go hire a developer and give them my vision. I'm like, nope, I can figure this out. And I'm really glad that I did, because I learned all these different skill sets that have served me in so many other ways. So I'd say that's been like one of the biggest things.
Gotcha.
On top of that,
yeah,
on top of that, I think the network marketing circle was a big one as well. I think proximity is such a big thing when you're reaching for something, right? Because if you don't see it being done, or you're seeing it be done and you're like, those are people online, they're not real people, right? Or like, you're watching TV or whatever, and you see the top of the top, but you don't relate to them. So, or like, network marketing for me was the first place where I got into a room and I could see people just like me that were doing it. And they do a really, really good job of recognition, of, having these different goals, all the things that you need. And then they show you these people, and then you're sitting next to them, right? You're sitting next to the next level above you, or the person that won the dream car, whatever it is, right? And you're like, if they can do it, there's got to be something here. It's possible. I can do it. And so it just gave me the path of like, if I just learn, or I just commit myself to knowing where my skill sets are and where they're not, the path is there. So I think that was one. I had a really great I forget what you call them in network marketing, upline, whatever, whoever it is.
Yeah.
A really, really, really great leader that, recommended books, held us accountable, had meetings with us, poured into us, gave us feedback, drove with us from Florida to Texas to go to these events and meet her upline and her mentors. Right. So it was, I'd say that was probably one of the first ones where it was really like a mentorship and development on leadership and sales and all of that.
That was cool. And now today, do you have mentors and groups that you're a part of that allow you to become to the next level or go to the next level as a result of the rooms that you're in?
Oh, for sure. And I didn't want to drag that on as a longer answer, but yeah, now Orange Theory was also a big one for me there too.
Okay.
I had he was the COO at the time of the company, and I was working as, what was I? I was a fitness regional basically. So I was just overseeing the fitness side. So overseeing the coaches, and the sales and ops side was always run by somebody else. So we had three locations at the time, and the sales and ops side was always like, I was like, I don't want that job ever. Like they're working 80 hours a week. They're getting hit with numbers and pressure and all this stuff. And I just looked at it as like, that it seems terrible. And so when he came in to the company, he was like, hey, we want to basically combine these two roles, and we think you could do it. And it was the first time ever in company history that they would combine sales, ops, and fitness into one leadership role. And the running joke now is that I turned him down 3 times. He drove 4 hours, showed up at the studio, was like, I get it. I'm not trying to convince you. Just follow me around for 2 days. Let me show you what this could look like. And that was like, thank God he did, because that was the moment for me, a huge turning point in how I build my business today, in how I think today, and how I lead my team. And I'm actually still working with him one-on-one for coaching now. So there's that. And then the other thing is like, networking and mentorship groups. So I'm in a couple mastermind groups. Actually, one of them is the one I'm going to Paris with. So getting to kind of do life with those people where you can talk about, business problems at scale that like people outside of building a business don't understand, and so being able to really kind of connect with them and be vulnerable about, hey, this is what I'm struggling with. This is what I'm going through. And they're like, oh, me too. That's been a huge part of it. And then, I think on the other side of like growing in my faith as well, getting into groups, faith-based groups as well. So, and seeing how that actually applies tactically to day-to-day life.
Oh, I love that when you just say tactically it applies to the things that you do. That makes so much sense. And yeah, and the reason I ask the question, and I sometimes dive a little bit deep into the relationships is because with success leaves clues, and people are saying this is where I'm spending 20 to 30% of my time. When I have listeners who are going, well, what should I be doing right now? Or like when you're coaching somebody, you're like, you should be working on you, because this is where the gap is. I can teach you how to use all the technical things of whatever it is that you're doing, but until you work on you and you become the person that you need to be, you're kind of wasting your time. You brought up intentionality and you brought up being intentional. What would you say like your balance is between being intentional and being distracted? Because we're all distracted bombarded by the world that's around us. People are always asking us to do things. Sometimes we have to say no, because if you have those intentionality, or you're intentional about doing stuff, you know exactly where you want to go. And it seems to me that that's kind of how you run your life is with intention more so than distraction. And I think a lot of people get stuck in distraction.
It's a really good point. Russell Brunson has been talking a lot about this, and he gives this image of the drifters versus, and I forget what he calls the opposite of that, but the drifters versus the driven, right? And it's a concept that actually comes from Napoleon Hill in Think and Grow Rich. And he's saying every day we're in this hypnotic rhythm, whether we like it or not. Every human being is in this hypnotic rhythm of day-to-day life, right? And everybody's hypnotic rhythm is a little bit different. But essentially, the drifters don't have that clear, I'm not going to say endpoint because it always evolves, but they don't have that clear intention, right? And yes, you could think of it as a goal, but I don't even think personally, does it help to set a super specific goal and say, I want, to hit X amount of revenue and this is what it looks like? Of course. But I think just having a general intention of what you want that to look like is more important. And so for the driven, that pulls you. Your hypnotic rhythm is going to look different. You're doing different things in moment to moment, right? And it's not that there isn't room, like things are going to come up, right? Things are always going to come up. There's always going to be unexpected things, and you've got to have flexibility. But it's about looping back to what was the thing that I planned to do today. And to me, that like also factors into integrity, right? Like I think the most like insidious form of dishonesty is when we lie to ourselves. And we're like, oh, I had this plan today, but it's okay. I'm not going to do, I was supposed to work out today, but yeah, I'm just going to go do this instead. And it's like, the more you're lying to yourself when you do that, you said, I'm going to do this thing. You didn't do it. And now subconsciously you're like, I'm not the type of person that does what I say I'm going to do. So I think that is one of the most, like, being intentional. That's really what I try to be intentional about. And doesn't mean that you don't have moments or seasons or things where like things are going on and you have to give yourself, like, I'm coming out of one of those seasons now, you know, but thankfully, but it's like, you have to give yourself grace knowing that, okay, this happened. This is what I'm dealing with now. Like, I know I'm not going to be 100%, but fighting that and giving that resistance is not going to be helpful either. And I know I had to be a little more lax with my schedule, if you will, but it was an intentional doing so, you know?
Oh, that's cool. The when I think about our faith and your faith and how it's played a part in being interwoven into your business and who you are and your identity and all that, what would you say has been the, you know, because you kind of just brought it up again, is, you know, as part of who you are, how, talk to us about that part of your life. And, you know, because I think some people try to separate it, like, you know, okay, so I have, you know, I go to church on Sundays, all right, you know, I pray in the morning, and then during the day, that isn't interwoven, you know. But I've met some of your staff as well, and I know that it's a big part of who not only you are as a person, but you are as how you do business. Let me talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, it's been an intentional thing. You know, because for me, like, I grew up going to church, you know, my parents took me to church, but I wouldn't say that we were truly Christian in terms of like having a relationship with Jesus. That's something that's fairly new in my life, like 3.5, 4 years now. And
Okay.
so having that massive shift and then trying to figure out, like I said earlier, tactically, I get that this is what I should do, but I don't know what this looks like. And so I've just had to be really, really intentional about saying, like, you know, God, what do you want this to look like? And what does this look like in a day to day? And I'm still asking those questions, and I'm still feeling, you know, direction and different pulls. And, you know, some days it feels like I'm not even good at this. I don't know, you know, but I think for me, there was a book that I read in October that totally shifted everything for me. It's called Don't Waste Your Life by John Piper. And in it, he's basically talking about the reason for being and why we're all here. And I think that he has a line in there, and he says, we glorify God the most when we are fully dependent on him in every single moment of our life. And so what that looks like for me is stopping and going, am I trying to make this decision on my own? Have I sought, you know, what God says about this first? And so, yeah, in the beginning, it was like, cool. I prayed in the morning. I did my scripture. Like, I'm good for the day. But then I started realizing it's like little moments of celebration, little moments of questioning, little moments of decisions. Like, where do I go in those moments, and what's my go-to, you know? And for a while it was like, okay, I'm having this problem. I need to go solve it. Let me go to Google. I'm having this problem. Let me go solve it. Let me go to somebody in my mastermind group. Right. Whereas, like, I really have to be intentional about, wait a minute, no, like, let me go to God first. Not that he doesn't work through those things, not that he doesn't work through Google or, you know, other people. But it's just being intentional and bringing him into every single moment, good, bad, indifferent, right, throughout the day.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that, because I think, you know, or I believe, you know, I'm a chaplain at a rehab center, and so I get to talk with folks. I do it about 20 hours a month, and I've been there for a little over 10 years. And I interact with so many people who are searching for what you just described, what you just said is that's the first thing you go to, instead of the last thing you go to when, like, times are now chaotic, they're crazy, and then we're reaching out, God, help me.
Yeah.
But when you go there first, it's just so neat to say, okay, well, now that kind of directs. And like you say, God works through all, you know, yeah, God's in Google, God's in, you know, he's in the relationships of the people and all the things that we do. which is just, yeah, it's just so neat to hear. I think there's an award that you have that is behind you, that is in,
Oh, yeah.
that is in your screen. And the only reason I bring it up, because, sometimes you look at backgrounds, you see where people are at. And so it must be important to you because it's the only one that's there. Maybe talk to us a little bit about what that is, what it took to get, because I know it's not, something that you probably had to be very intentional and had to work at it hard. And then what has it meant to you, as you build your business?
Yeah. I just recently put it back there too. I've been kind of moving around my office, and it's one of those things where I painted certain walls and put up certain stuff for, for what I thought was going to work out well for filming and all of that. And now I'm like, oh, I wish I had done this differently. So I'm just trying to play around with it and get stuff where it needs to be. But yeah, so I got this in 2023, and it is the ClickFunnels 2 Comma Club Award. So it basically means that you've made $1 million through one funnel in 1 year. And I guess, like, thinking about it, it's funny. It's in my background, and it was something for a while that was the sole goal. But it's not something that I necessarily even think about that much anymore. But when I go back and look at that point, I'm like, this was a huge marker of transformation, really. So it's like not so much about the money or the business success, but for a while it was the goal. It was truthfully, like, my identity was wrapped up in this thing in one way or another. My identity was wrapped up in my business, and it was like, when I said earlier about letting go, that's kind of what this references for me, and that's not to say, like, I'm very careful with this, because I don't ever want to combine the two of, like, because you all of a sudden follow God or you're obedient or that he's going to bless you with money. No, absolutely not. And that's not what happened here. But for me, it's like an internal transformation of realizing none of this is mine. It's not mine. It's not my doing. And so that's what I mean by saying letting go. And it was really, like I talked about earlier, the transformation of realizing, like, there's more to life than money or cars or any of that. And it was really kind of the start of that for me. And probably about, 12 months or so before we actually hit this award, I just had, like, a totally different level of peace. Before that, it was like, if I missed something, or I missed something in my schedule, or I missed a workout, or I missed something I was supposed to do, all of a sudden it was like, I'm not good enough. Like, I'm never going to be able to build this business. Is not, it just a ridiculous spiral, and anxiety. And I would snap at anybody, close to me, and, like, all this frustration that would build. And it was just a terrible way to live, and not to say that you don't have moments of that, right? But you're much more aware of it, and then you can kind of let go of it and know that it's not in your hands anymore. So, it means a lot in terms of just life transformation. But it also, I think the other thing it says to me too is I didn't do that alone. Like, that's a lot of that is due to my team. And so remembering that now, what it means is I've got a team to support, and I have salaries that I pay, and people are dependent on that in much more of a way than this is no longer just the business that I started, from my laptop with me and one VA. So.
Yeah. Sorry. Thank you for sharing that, because what I see in the award is not this award because of the achievement of what you got. It was because of who you became as a result of the process and the journey that you went through. And I see that as representing the journey more than what that end goal was. And so I'm glad, because I imagine every time that you see it and you look at it, you're not thinking about, okay, this is what I won, because we did it. You're thinking about, oh man, all the pieces in that journey and how you evolved and you changed as a result of like the person. I mean, can you remember the person you were when you started that? And that was, okay, this is my objective. This is what we're going to do. This is where we're going to go, and how driven we are. And I'm not the drifter. I am the driven person. And then you go through, and now you're done and you've hit it. And now are you able to teach others and work with people and, talk to people about that journey and to kind of help them so they don't repeat some of the same things that you did? Or is, how has that now changed the way you interact with people?
Oh, for sure. It's funny, right? Like, people will come to you with questions, and I'm like, like I don't feel equipped. I'm like, why are you coming to me, right? But then I'm like, okay, well, I'll just give you my experience and what this looked like for me. But it's also funny because this also like is an entry point into one of the masterminds I'm in, right? You kind of have to have this award to get in. But it's really cool to be in that room because what you get to see is everybody in that room has at least one of these, right? Some people have multiple, but it's also like they're starting new things. And every time they go through a new thing, it's like, oh, nothing's working. Guys, can you help me with this? And it's like, their 10th webinar, like they've already built 5 businesses that are well over $1 million and they're starting something new. And it's like the same process. So it just humanizes things so much. And it's like, there is no, I don't know, it just takes all the pressure off. And it's really cool to see them being so open about it as well and vulnerable about like what they need help with. And because that's a hard thing to do, to say, hey, I'm this person and I've already built these businesses, but I'm failing over here, but that for them to be like, and accept that as part of the journey. And you see what that looks like at every evolution of life is really cool. And people reaching for the next award, right? I think the other important thing that I learned with this is it does matter having an intention. Right. And again, even if you miss this, or even if you overshoot it, or even if that becomes something else, maybe it's no longer about getting that award and the goal changes. It doesn't matter. It's like having that intention pulls you into like the driven hypnotic rhythm that we talked about earlier.
This is cool because you've used intention a lot, which I love because it's kind of, but one of the things that even Myron talks about all the time is intention comes with disruption. Whenever you're intending to do something, there's going to be something that jumps in the way. Maybe talk to us a little bit about some of those disruptions as you make these intentions, and then how do you push through them? Because that's where people stop, right? When people quit, the disruption comes because we know when there's intention, the enemy or wherever is going to jump in, and there's going to be some things that don't go the way that we thought it was going to go. And the folks that push through those are the ones that ultimately succeed, and the ones who quit don't. So what are some of those for you that?
It's funny. I don't think I'm an overly optimistic person. I say that cautiously is what I'm about to say. But I look at it and yes, I mean, there are challenges and there are seasons of just like, where things are not where you want them to be and you're running into different things. But I've never really looked, I mean, they're disruptions, but I never really looked at them that way. And I think when I'm in it, it sucks, right? It's obviously like, it doesn't, you know that winter will end, but when you're in it and you don't know when it's going to end and you don't know what it's going to look like and you don't know what you're going to have to go through to get to the other side, it's still hard, right? But I think ultimately like, that's the thing too, is like, I know ultimately it's not on me and that, whatever happens, like it's ultimately in God's hands and I will end up where he wants me to end up. It's not the easiest thing in the world, especially when you want something to go this way. So yeah, I mean, I think there's definitely been disruptions. There's been, there's been so many days too, where I'm like, just cancel everything, shut the business down. We're done, But then you just, you're like, let me just step away. Let me go to bed. I'll be fine the next morning. Right. And so I think it's a lot of that. Like for me, I feel like the disruption has been the mental game, and it's like, again, learning to deal with, like, I lost my brother in July. And so learning to deal with, that sort of thing on top of this and like, what do I do? And, it's just like trying to keep your routine while doing all of that. And then learning you got to have grace with yourself in that. And it's in the resistance that you caused the problem. Right. And then also like balancing your own health with that. So I think like there's always going to be distractions, always going to be disruptions. I think distractions is another thing too. It's like keeping focused on the goal and saying, well, we could go do all these other things. Right. And it's like, why don't you do this? And why don't you do that? And you could go, build this completely different thing for this avatar. And it's like, sometimes that works. And sometimes like you're meant to go do that, but it's having discernment, right? Between like, no, this is where I'm supposed to be right now. Maybe that's for another time. So I kind of look at it like that.
Yeah. And I can imagine the more means that you have and resources that you have, the distractions, I guess, exponentially are available to you because there's ability to be distracted, right? You have the ability, you're not like, well, I don't have any money, so I can't go to the movies, or I can get out the whole theater now if I want to, or stuff like that.
So true. Yeah. So
You know,
true.
which is cool. So when Giana goes to bed at night and she's thinking about, do you evaluate your day? This was a good day. And then do you think about things you're looking forward to the next day? And then when you get up in the morning, what are you most looking forward to every day when you get
Okay, so great question, because we talked about intentionality a lot.
up?
And I will be the first to tell you the weak point in my life right now is my evening routine. It's very inconsistent. So I would love to tell you that yes, I, go to bed and like have these goals for the day, day coming up and reflect on my past day. I don't do that at night. I do have a weekly cadence for it. So I'm really, really good and consistent with like planning my week, and I'll plan out the week and have like the most important things on each day. So I kind of already have that going into it. I don't like to leave that the night before. And then I'll reflect on the week as a whole. I'm trying to usually in the mornings, like I'll do some kind of journaling. Again, haven't been super consistent with that lately. I was previously. But I find that helps a lot too, to connect those dots, because before you realize it, 3 weeks have gone by. You might have changed something significant, right? Like it feels insignificant because you're already used to it. Like great example, diet, right? Or a slight thing in your workout routine. And 6 months later, you get your blood work done and you're like, I don't feel like I changed anything, but look at how much better it is, right? And without consciously tracking that in little increments, I lose sight of that all the time. So I'm trying to be better about it. But no, usually my evening routine when I'm on my game is like some sort of stretching and then reading and then bed, and that's it.
That's cool. Yeah, I've recently, and this is, I feel so dumb because when I was trying to journal, and supposedly I'm the special ed kid that does not issues writing and all that kind of stuff, and so I can't read whatever I write down. And then I was a computer teacher, so like in the beginning of Google and all that kind of stuff, I'm teaching at the school, and it just now, like in the last few years, dawned on me when I wrote my book, because I was able to write my book by talking into Google Talk, or Google Type, whatever. And now I can journal and actually talk to my phone, and it shows up in writing, and then I can actually read what I wrote. It's like, wow, this is technology is able.
Pretty cool.
So, but that's not the excuse for not journaling like I should be or should I'm doing. So, I'm glad you're working on that routine and that's happening. Yeah, that's so cool that you're doing that. When we talk about health, right? Because you were in a gym, you were training people to be healthy. What are some of the things in your routine that you do to make sure you maintain your health the best that you possibly can, especially in a country like ours that has so many options of bad stuff and fast stuff and all those things? But what do you do? Because I don't think any of us don't fail at it. I mean, if we do, we're like eating in the Matrix or something, mush every day. But
yeah,
you do it.
So true. Yeah, I mean, I think like I thought that I was pretty good at it. Like I always prioritize sleep. One of the things that I've had for the last 8 years has been a game changer has been the Whoop. It's like a little, if you've heard of it, basically tracks all of your like heart rate variability, recovery, stress, all those different things.
Mm-hmm.
Had it for 8 years. So I've got 8 years of data on this thing. And fun sidebar, I dumped all the data from this, my journal and my blood work into AI. It was very, very interesting. So if you have access to that data, do it. It's very, very interesting. And I bet that's probably where a lot of like health and science is headed towards these days.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I got diagnosed basically with like Hashimoto's, which was very surprising because of consistent with working out, consistent with diet, and all these things. So I think it's actually stress related. And now, things are totally different in terms of blood work and all of that. But for me, the most important thing is food, stress management, and working out. And working out has kind of changed for me a little bit. I used to do just high intensity cardio. I mean, Orange Theory, right? Like 5, 6, 7 days a week. Definitely overtraining. And I think as you get older, you realize like it's too much cortisol. It's not what your body needs. So I've kind of backed down to cardio maybe once or twice a week. I mostly focus on strength training. And I'm very big into tennis right now, which I think has helped me both on the stress management side and the fitness side. But yeah, so those are the main things. And then food, just being really careful with, I I'm a huge foodie, so there's definitely a lot of moments where I'm not perfect. But in the moments that I can control, try to be very just careful of what I, put in my body.
So you're doing the tennis and you haven't jumped on the pickleball wagon yet, right? That's everybody's right.
Oh, yeah. I think I'm biased because I'm so obsessed with tennis, and pickleball is like taking over all the tennis courts now.
Yes, it is.
So I get it though.
It's kind of my, I think of like PE teachers like myself. So in the 90s, when we started playing pickleball because we could get more kids in PE class in the pickleball than we could onto the tennis courts and stuff. And
Makes sense.
now they're all older and they're trying to play pickleball. Like I have a cousin that I had taught, and he's doing a pickleball cruise now for people that are like, serious, you guys
That's
are going to go on
amazing.
the cruise, play pickleball. You're this obsessed with this. I guess it's activity. I can't be mad at him for going out. I think of it as a distraction more than anything. But I'm so glad that you're still, the purist of doing the tennis, and you're able to do it, and you're able to do it as long as you can. Just one last thing as far as that, I want to ask these questions, and then I want to ask you to, tell us what we didn't cover. But just on the leadership side, is your evolution of being a leader, are you having to work more on leadership now that you have teams and you have people, and are there like special things you're doing to make sure that you're a better leader? Because sometimes we feel like it's easier to work on ourselves because we can control that, but you can't control what other people do. What's kind of your experience now as you're growing as a leader?
Yeah, great question. So I think that when I was at Orange Theory, that was my sole focus, right? It was, how do you motivate people? How do you handle tough conversations? How do you handle it when people are going through tough things? How do you draw the line between that and performance management? All these different things that would come up. And I think that when you're starting your own business, it's a different cycle. So in the first phase of the business, it's a totally different skill set, and luckily, like I had a job and a paycheck while I was learning that skill set. I think it's so hard when you're starting a business and you don't have that income and you have to learn the skill set. And then you start growing and it's a whole nother set of skill set, right? So for me, I think I did it backwards. Like I got really good at the leadership side of things, or I should say really focused on the leadership side of things. And then when I went into the business, it was much more, how do you grow a business? How do you marketing, sales, all of that, and setting up the operations and the building piece. And now that we're at the phase that we're at, I'm moving back into this cycle I was in Orange Theory, where it's all about the people. And now the best use of my time is no longer like, sitting at my office building something on my laptop, right? It's now, how do I level up the awareness of my team to the awareness that I have being the person that built the business, and then beyond that, right? How do I make them better than me? And the only way you can do that is continuing to pour into yourself. So again, I think it just goes back to being intentional. It's like I lose sight of this all the time, right? Where I'm like getting frustrated, or I'm like, why is this happening? Or like, what am I doing? And it's funny, I had this realization yesterday where I'm like, there's a whole layer of my team, which is crazy to say in this business that, when you build it from the ground up, you just never think of this part of it. I'm like, there's a whole layer of my team that I barely know. And it's harder because we're remote. And so I'm like, I got to get on some one-on-one calls. And I know it's probably going to terrify them when I'm like, hey, let's jump on a one-on-one call. I just want to see how things are. They're going to be like, why? But like, yeah, like genuinely, I just want to get to know you a little bit more. And like, I'm sorry that I haven't done that as a leader. And I know that there's a hierarchy to things. And like, obviously I want your direct manager, supervisor to be pouring into you. Like, not necessarily that I have to step into that full-time role, but like, we should know each other. We should be on a good basis here, and you should know me and I should know you. And it should be more than just a Zoom call once a month. So like, yeah, I'm every day, right? I get hit with like, oh my gosh, I'm failing at that. Like, I got to be better for my team.
Oh, that's so cool. Well, it shows you care. You really genuinely care. And I think all of us want to be part of something that does that, something that believes more in the whole than just, the individual person exceeding. And so you have that in spades. And I so appreciate you even talking about that and explaining that. Oh man, thank you for being on with us today. I really truly want you to. I have been so selfish, and I apologize for that because I've got all these notes because my thing, success leaves clues. What clues are you going to give me today? And you have given me so many. My intentionality, I think, is going to jump up like crazy. But what didn't we talk about that you really wanted to talk about? And, please give us, connection, your business, that kind of stuff, of how we participate in your life as you continue to grow. And so please share some of that with us, please.
Oh yeah. Well, thank you so much. This has been a blast. I don't feel that you've been selfish at all. I thought it was a great time. But yeah, I think honestly, this is covered a lot of broad range. I wouldn't say there's anything necessarily that we forgot about. We got to kind of touch on all of it. So I appreciate that. For me, if you want to connect, you want to stay in touch, Instagram and YouTube are probably my two favorites. So just Giana Cambria 91 on Instagram. For some reason, it's telling me that Giana Cambria, the username, is taken for the last 7 years, even though I can't find the account. So Giana Cambria 91 on Instagram, or just Giana Cambria on YouTube.
Oh, cool. And then maybe a little bit about what Upper Hand does, and so that for people who are looking for what you do, what is it that they could benefit from being part of the things that you offer?
Yeah, absolutely. We systematize creativity. That's how I put it. But all of your content done in less than 4 hours per month. So if you're looking to grow or step up or scale up what you're already doing with your content creation, or start content creation for your business, we can help you with that. We basically install a done for you content machine and the person to manage it inside of your business for you.
Cool. Well, thank you. And again, thank you for being on the podcast today. For those of you who are saying, man, this is a great interview. One of the other things that I learned is, as I'm trying to watch these and do my podcast, and I'm walking and listening, I realized that I can put pause and take notes and then start it up again and then reread it. And like, oh, it took me all this time to figure that out, as I'm like, furiously trying to get down everything. And so folks, go back and watch this. If there's people that that could benefit from the things that Giana talked about today, and that could just help them with mindset and being able to move forward, send it to them. Let them hear it. The worst thing they could do is just not listening to it. But if they do, and it has the capability to change their lives. And so go ahead and do the YouTube stuff, like hit subscribe and notifications and all that. We have episodes coming out every single week for love of just people that we get to talk to, that we get to know, that we go, oh my gosh, if that person can do it, so can I. And they made it seem so simple, and I hope that's what you guys heard today. That's what you were able to be a part of. I encourage you to connect with Giana and you just follow her. I mean, when I literally say it, because I know probably went to Tony Robbins thing back in the 90s that he said successfully excludes, but I live my life that way, because if I'm truly wanting to be successful, and success doesn't mean the amount of money that you make. It doesn't mean, as she told you, the two comma club to be, with the funnels. It means the person that you get to become. And so thank you guys for being a part of it today. Giana, thank you for being on. We will look forward to seeing you on the next one. And you guys have an amazing, incredible day. Don't forget, you are God's greatest gift. He loves you if you allow him to. And we'll talk to you again. See you later.